السماء. الحمد لله عدد ما خلق في الأرض. الحمد لله عدد ما بين ذلك. الحمد لله عدد ما هو خالق. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما خلق في السماء. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما خلق في الأرض. لا إله إلا الله ذلك. لا إله إلا الله عدد ما هو خالق. الله أكبر عدد ما خلق في السماء. الله أكبر عدد ما خلق في الأرض. الله أكبر عدد ما بين ذلك. الله أكبر عدد ما هو خالق. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما خلق في السماء. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما خلق في الأرض. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما بين ذلك. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم عدد ما هو خالق. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك والحمد يحيي ويميت وعلى كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك والحمد يحيي ويميت وعلى كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له له الملك وله الحمد يحيي ويميت وعلى كل شيء قدير عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله صلاة وسلام دائمين بنور ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله صلاة وسلام دائمين بنور ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد مفتاح باب رحمة الله عدد ما في علم الله صلاة وسلام دائمين بدوام ملك الله وعلى آله وصحبه عدد كل ذرة ألف مرة في كل لحظة أبدا عدد خلقك ورضا نفسي وزنة عرشي ومداد كلماتك.
آمين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد عبده ورسوله النبي الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحان الله العظيم. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد ولك الساري ومددك الجاري واجمعنا به في كل أطوارنا وعلى آله وصحبه نور عدد خلقه ورضا نفسه وزنة عرشه ومداد كلماته عدد كل حرف كتب ويكتب وقرئ ويقرأ وسمع ويسمع ورؤي ويرى أبد الآبدين والدهر الداهرين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا من فضلك علما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. So generally after any adhkar or ibadah they would read the Fatiha. So when they say Amin, meaning read the Fatiha. So many times people, they want to, or they don't know what to read. So the practice in the city of Tarim, especially after Salah, is whoever gives the Iqamah, they do the Fatiha after the Salah. The Fatiha after the Salah. What do you mean when you talk about Surah Fatiha? You see, through the secrets of Surah Fatiha, let's say Al-Fatiha, Biniya Anna Allah. So we are reading, or we are going to read Surah Fatiha, and through the blessings and secrets of Surah Fatiha, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to realize for us these intentions, that Allah forgive us and protect us, and those intentions are almost like du'as that you are making. And then they will say, وَإِلَى حَضْرَةَ النَّبِي, that, and so we are reading Surah Fatiha as Isala Thawab, they say Isala Thawab, right, as a means of sending the reward of the Surah Fatiha to the soul of the Prophet ﷺ. And then someone would even mention sometimes their chain, their spiritual chain going back to the Prophet ﷺ. So after every ibadah, after every dhikr, after every gathering, the people of Hadramaut especially would read the Fatiha with different intentions. Generally after Salah they would make the intention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send the reward of the Salah and the Fatiha to our parents, deceased parents, near and dear ones, those who have passed away, of the entire Muslim Ummah, and with the intention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all those present who came for the Salah and shower them in His mercy and mercy and forgiveness. And then وَإِلَى حَضْرَةِ النَّبِي. They'll then send the reward to the Prophet ﷺ and whoever else they have intended. And recently as well, many of the mashayikh have said we should include in sending the thawab of our ibadat and our actions to the mujahideen, especially those that are fighting in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when they say Ameen, don't just say وَإِلَى حَضْرَةِ النَّبِي. You have to make those intentions. Say Allah, whatever we have read in terms of adhkar, dhikr, salah, the Prophet ﷺ, send the reward of this to whoever you intend to send it to, with whatever intentions you intend to have read that adhkar in the morning. And then it will start. Some people saw the Prophet ﷺ in a dream. And this is a hadith it's based on this hadith in Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ in Sahih Bukhari, he says, it is as if I can see myself on the day of Qiyamah at my hawd, at his pond, at his Kawthar, telling people to make way for the people of Yemen. Right? Azudun nas and Ahli Yemen. They're all rushing to come, and the Prophet said, make way for the people of Yemen. So some people saw the Prophet in a dream, and they wanted to know why. What was the one of the many, obviously, qualities that the people of Yemen had, which made the Prophet love them so much. And the Prophet said that they don't begin or end any of their gatherings except that they send the reward of Surah Fatiha to me. So they start all their gatherings with Fatiha, and they end all of their gatherings with Fatiha. Even if you go to the houses of the scholars for lunch, so they would have lunch, they would eat, but no one will stand up until they finish with a Fatiha, with a dua. Obviously that's one of the qualities of the people of Yemen. The Prophet ﷺ in another hadith, he would say, كَأَنِّي أَجِدُ نَفَسَ الرَّحْمَنِ مِنْ قِبَلِ الْيَمَنِ. It is as if I can scent the fragrance of the breath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the direction of Yemen. There's many hadith that I even mentioned about it. Obviously when we speak about the breath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is metaphorical. Continuing inshallah with our lessons in Tawjīh Nabīh in Mardāt Bārīh. Yesterday Habib Umar was speaking about the importance of being concerned with the rectification of the ummah in people's hearts and bringing those that have fallen into negligence back onto the path. Right? And this is a form of worship. Habib Umar spoke about how even this is the job prescription of not just the prophets but of all of the inheritors of the prophets. So this one's lineage, for example, his father was an accountant, and his father was an accountant, and his father was an accountant. This one's father was a doctor, and his father was a doctor, and his father was a doctor. This father, he was an engineer, and his father was an engineer. So people take pride in their family business or in the professions that have been brought down in their ancestors. Our sixth generation grandfather, he started this business, or whatever it is. And with the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is their job prescription. They are concerned about the hearts of the ummah, and how can the hearts of the ummah come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Habib was speaking that the reason they do this is because it is the trust that was placed on their shoulders by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And were it not a form of worship and a form of ibadah and a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a trust, they wouldn't waste their time speaking to people and reminding them. And generally when one listens to the speech of the awliya, one would tend to think that they are saying the same things over and over again. Right? What we need to keep in mind is human nature is such that if you leave it, it will digress. We all know we have to read salah 5 times a day, but the adhan is there to remind us. فَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Remind them, for reminder benefits the believers. And so this constant reminder. But what happens is, if you are sitting in gatherings, for example, where the person speaking is talking about the importance of the recitation of the Quran, and you are not someone who is reciting the Quran, right? And look at the state of the Awliya, Habib Ali al-Habashi or some of his companions. Either he was speaking or they had attended a gathering where someone was speaking. And the Shaykh was speaking about the importance of the recitation of the Quran and how the Ummah have neglected their recitation of the Quran. So he with his companion, they attended the gathering. Afterwards they said, I don't think the Shaykh was intending anyone else in the talk besides myself. We're reading 3 juz a day or 4 juz a day, it's too little, we need to increase. We need to now read more. And so the way a person attends a gathering, right, of exhortation or talk or a lecture is that whatever is being said is intended for me, not for. So sometimes the Shaykh might be speaking about something and we thinking, yeah, that guy there, he's got this problem. Oh yeah, and you know, so and so that I know has this problem. No, you have to think, he's intending me. And the purpose of having gatherings of knowledge, and especially circles of dhikr, and when people are being exhorted, is so that the light of prophecy can continue to flow in the ummah. Because these are بَلْ هُوَ آيَاتٌ بَيِّنَاتٌ فِي صُدُورِ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ. This religion are clear signs which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in the hearts of those who have been given knowledge. So the knowledge is passed down from heart to heart. The information is passed down, right, from heart to heart. The books and the gatherings are just a means so that the states then can be passed from heart to heart. And generally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the awliya, He will inspire them to speak about things which every single person will need to hear. So many times after one talk, if you ask those who had attended to discuss amongst themselves what did they take, different people would take different things from one gathering, right? There's a famous story of Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jailani. He was a speaker and people used to be affected in his talks and people used to be affected by his speech. But he didn't have a very, if we can use the term, eloquent and flowery way of using the beauty of the Arabic language when he was speaking. And so his son was obviously learned, and his son who was very, very fluent and eloquent, one day told his father, let me speak to the people. Right? It's a famous story. I hope I remember it. So he speaks to the congregation. The father says, okay, let him speak. And he stands up and he gives an eloquent, very eloquent speech, and he brings the ayat of the Quran and the hadith and poetry and everything. And the people are just, okay, they're not affected. And then Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani gets up and he says, yesterday, so they use like Abdullah, like the mother of so and so, meaning his wife, she cooked a chicken, and while she went into another room to get something, a cat came and stole the chicken. And the whole crowd starts crying and wailing and bawling and repenting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? The son is perplexed now. He didn't say anything, he just brought some, ordinary speech. And then he goes and he asks the people, he says, like, what did you? He says, the Shaykh gives the greatest parable. This is like someone, who has spent their whole life doing good deeds. And then at the end of the day, shaitan comes and takes the deeds. And someone else, in his mind, he was able to extract a different lesson about his relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another person had a different lesson. Right? And so it's not about the speech, it's about the states of heart that the awliya are trying to convey to us when they speak to us. And so this amana, see what Habib Umar is saying now, he says, وَالْيَوْمْ تُؤَدَّى الْأَمَانَةُ إِلَيْكُمْ. And today this trust is now being placed on your shoulders. And if you are listening to these words, then the trust is being placed onto your shoulders. لِمَنْ سَيَنْتَهِدْ وَلِمَنْ سَيَعْزِمْ. For those who are willing and are going to rise up to the occasion and are going to be determined, meaning they're ready to roll their sleeves up and receive this trust. أو سيقبل, or those who are going to now start wanting to approach, come forward and take this trust. أو سيتصل, or those who want to be joined to those who are involved in fulfilling this trust. أو سيرتقي, right, or joining themselves to those who through taking this trust will now be elevated in spiritual ranks. أو سيقرب, and those who will attain proximity through it. أو سيفهم, or those who are willing to understand its secrets. أو سيدرك أو ستتهيأ لماذا, or for those who will become perceptive in their understanding and will become prepared for what? يتهيأ للقاء الجبار. All of this is in order to prepare for that ultimate meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have been given a trust, you are then accountable for what you did with the trust. And on the day that you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will be asked about how did you fulfill the trust. وَيَتَهَيِّئُ لِأَنْ يَسْمَعَ مِنْهُ أَعْذَبَ الْكَلَامِ سَاعَةَ الْحِمَامِ. And they are preparing also to hear the sweetest of speeches at the time of death, or the sweetest of sounds at the time of death. What is that sound? فَيَحْسُنُ لَهُ الْخِتَامِ. And through hearing that at the time of death, just before his death, when these glad tidings are brought to him, he will then achieve the greatest of glad tidings, or the best of endings. وَيَسْمَعُ مُخَاطَبَةَ الْمَلِكِ الْعَلَّامِ. And he will hear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, giving him this glad tidings. Which glad tidings? Ya ayyatuha nafsul mutma'inna. O soul, at complete tranquility or ease or contentment. Irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan maradiyah. Now return to your Lord, radiyah. Allah is pleased with the soul, mardiyah, and the soul is well pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or the soul is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and well pleased by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Irji'i ila rabbika. You fulfilled your trust, now come back to us. Right? And think about if you had to give someone a responsibility to go out, and you've seen them, they fulfill their task, you call them back to give them the reward. فَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي. Now enter into my servants, or the realm of my servants, special elect servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي. And this is the hope when we ask for husn al-khatimah, for a good ending. It is this hope that one gets this. Because what happens at the time of death, shaitan also, he's there to distract a person. And generally, what lies in your heart and in your mind comes to the fore at the time of death. If anyone's been through near-death experiences, they might be able to tell you the saying that the world or my life flashed before my eyes. What do they mean by that? Is everything that's in their heart comes to the fore. And the question in the grave as well is not going to be the questioning of an intellectual answer that, okay, I know the answer to that. It's going to be what resides in your heart. So if someone's heart is connected to, for example, anything of the dunya, when they are asked, that dunya is going to now come to the fore. Right? Very famous story as well. They speak about a contractor or a businessman, right, who was involved in the cement business. And obviously he was a contractor, so he had to organize the cement for the engineers, whoever were going to be building. And very, very, very big, famous, rich businessman. And him and his children, they were all in this business. But he was so concerned about his business that his salah also would sometimes go by, or he'll read late, or he might not even read it. And he lived his life in this way. And he was always concerned that the main thing, if people met him, the main thing on his tongue and his thoughts, where's the cement? Where's the cement? Where's the cement? Has the shipment left? Has the shipment arrived? The cement, the cement, the cement. Right? He met up in an accident. And he was rushed to the hospital, and now obviously people that know him come and they're saying, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. Obviously not ordering, but just generally saying, right? And what is he saying? What's coming off his tongue? Cement, cement. The cement, where's the cement? And he himself is perplexed as, what's this coming off my tongue? He wants to say, but what is in his heart is now coming out. Right? And he passed away in that state. And then his children started to argue amongst themselves with regards to inheritance, and his body was still there. No one was even concerned about his kafan, about inheritance, and who's going to get this and who's going to get that. Right? Staff had to come and prepare his kafan and prepare his dafan, and then just by the way his children came to attend. To that extent, obviously this is an extreme example, right? But this has happened. And we have examples also in this country, right, of people, youth, unfortunately, that they used to go in the evenings to these nightclubs and whatever it is. The guy met up in an accident. Whoever came and found him, right, he just kept repeating the line of this song that he was listening to in the car all the time. People are telling him, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. And he himself doesn't know where the sound is coming from, where this is coming from his heart. And that's the danger of music, because when you listen to words, constantly what is happening, it's being entrenched into your heart. And if those are words which are contrary to the lifestyle of the Prophet ﷺ, contrary to the Islamic belief system, then what's happening to the heart? And so a person will hear this speech from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so at the time of death, shaitan is there to also try and distract you. But when a person is given glad tidings, what happens? He becomes so elated, right? That elation and that happiness at the glad tidings makes everything else fall into oblivion. So for example, when you are happy with something, you forget everything around you. You forget your past, you forget your sins, you forget all negativity. In a moment of elation, right? You are focused only on what is the cause of your happiness, right? And when they talk of Husn al-Khatimah, Habib Umar also mentions, and he mentioned it further in the book, about how certain people at the time of death, right, the souls of the awliya will appear to them, the soul of the Prophet ﷺ, right? And obviously in the tradition it mentions also how the angels would come in the best of forms, right? And the Prophet ﷺ spoke about how they would take his soul away in a good state with perfume. His soul would have the fragrance of perfume as he's going up through the heavens, right? And we find that sometimes if you've ever attended someone's at the time of their death, already when those veils are lifted, they can actually see these. They can see these angels, or they can see, some of them would even speak and say, "This is what I'm seeing." Some of them might not be able to speak, but through their faces, you can actually see that they are privy to this other realm now. And in that state, you are in an extreme state of elation. You become happy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you yearn to know what? You yearn to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so this is a good death, because those who yearn to meet Allah, Allah then yearns to meet them. تلتفت روحه من أين جاءت هذه البشارة. At the time of hearing the speech, his soul now starts wondering, where is this glad coming from? ومن أين وصل هذا الوصل? And from where was this great gift coming from? فيجد الحبيب يرحب بواصل من أمته. He will hear this speech, يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة. Imagine the time of death. You're sitting there, you are worried, right? You're not sure about your state. And generally, at the time of death, they say a person should have more hope in the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You live your life with more fear, but at the time of death, you have more hope. And you're not sure, the veils haven't yet been lifted, and you're waiting for the angel of death to come by. We're all going to go through this, right? And this should be something in our minds every night before you go to sleep, when you put your head down, right? When you put your head down on the right hand side, you have to imagine yourself being put into your grave. And going through this process of how we are going to die needs to be done on a regular basis, because it's going to happen ultimately. So you're waiting. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for a good ending for all of us in the best of states, no matter where you are. Right? You could be in salah, you could be at work, you could be in the car, you could be in a hospital bed, you can be at home sleeping, right? And then suddenly you hear this voice. And when you hear the voice, you know your time has come now, right? And you weren't sure, am I going to be getting glad tidings, or am I going to be getting a warning and reprimanding for my shortcomings? And when he hears this voice, his soul starts wondering and thinking, where is it coming from? And then the veils are lifted. Who does he see? Someone that has fulfilled his trust and his duty. Who is the one that comes to welcome him into the barzakh? فَيَجِدُ الْحَبِيبُ يُرَحِّبُ بِوَاصِلٍ مِّنْ أُمَّتِهِ. He finds the Prophet ﷺ coming to take this person from his ummah, right? Wasilin, who fulfilled this duty. Who is pleased with his work now? The Prophet ﷺ himself. Did the Prophet ﷺ's work? He himself will come in and welcome you. Right? صَدَقَ فِي نُصْرَتِهِ. This person was truthful in giving victory to the Prophet ﷺ. وَصَدَقَ فِي اتِّبَاعِ سُنَّتِهِ. And he was truthful and sincere in following his sunnah. وَصَدَقَ فِي رَحْمَةِ أُمِّهِ. He was truthful in being compassionate and merciful on the ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. وَصَدَقَ فِي الْمَشْيِ عَلَى سِيرَتِهِ. And he was truthful in treading and walking on the path of the Prophet ﷺ. فَيُحْسِنُ إِسْتِقْبَالَهُ وَمُقَابَلَتَهُ. And he will achieve the best of meetings and the best of receptions. وَيُزَجُّ بِهِ هُنَاكَ إِلَى مَا لَا يُوصَفْ وَمَا لَا يُكَيَّفْ. يُزَجُّ, this time yuzaj is used for a bride, when a bride is taken to her husband, bridegroom, right? You know, when they say you with drums and the whole that is made, right? This is the term. Imagine the soul is now coming, and obviously where the Prophet ﷺ goes, who goes? Where the Prophet ﷺ goes, who goes? The entire heavens goes, all the Sahaba are with him, all the angels there, all the forces of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are with him, right? And so imagine this reception, not the entire, all these people whose legacy you were living for, right? And if that's the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right, he's perfect inheritors, emulate him. So if the Prophet came to welcome someone, are they going to stay behind? They'll come and welcome. They'll come and welcome as well. Your entire chain going back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all of it. And imagine that vision, right? Is it a good death or is that a bad death? That is and that is what we all ask for. We ask for this husn al-khatimah, right? وَيُزَجُّ بِهِ, and imagine the drums and all the fuss that is made about this person. And then we say for the awliya, their death is a tuhfa. Their death is a celebration. The day the awliya pass away, there are celebrations in the heavens. So in Fiqh al-Muqaddam, right, when after his death, someone had passed away, one of his teachers, so Fiqh al-Muqaddam was a faqih, obviously Fiqh al-Muqaddam, he had reached the heights of Islamic jurisprudence and fiqh and all the Islamic sciences, to such an extent that his teacher said that it was our hope that you would become like Ibn al-Fawraq. Ibn al-Fawraq was one of the students of Imam Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari. Imam Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari was the one who was the cause for the preservation of the Islamic belief and aqidah of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, right? And his student Ibn al-Fawraq was the one that revised his teachings, and then he was the cause of the savior of the Ummah. Meaning his teacher had a hope that he would serve this purpose, even being a savior of the Ummah in terms of the academic sciences. But then obviously, it's a long story how Fiqh al-Muqaddam then took the path of tasawwuf, right? And his teacher sort of got upset to some extent, and because he left the outward sciences and he began to focus on the inward sciences. Long story short, anyway, his teacher passes away, and his teacher is seen in a dream. And they ask him, what did you see in the hereafter, or in the barzakh, with regards to the spiritual state of Sayyidina Fiqh al-Muqaddam? And he said, the people in the barzakh are more yearning for him to reach them than you are to have him amongst yourselves in the world. They are waiting to receive. And imagine the death of the Prophet ﷺ. What wasn't it like in the heavens, right? And all the great awliya, the day they pass away, it is a celebration in the heavens, right? People that attend their janazas, you get a sense of that feeling when you attend their janazah. And so death for the believer, they say, is a tuhfa, it's a gift, it is something that you have been looking forward to, right? وَيُزَجُّ بِهِ هُنَاكَ إِلَى مَا لَا يُوصَفْ وَمَا لَا يُغِفْ. He will then be paraded there, or he will be brought forth like a bride, right, to those gifts, into that arena, into the barzakh, بِمَا لَا يُوصَفْ, with things which cannot be described and cannot be even spoken about. It is beyond our fathoming. Ya ikhwani ukallimukum bilisani sidq. Habib saying, oh my brethren, oh my students, I am speaking to you with the truthful tongue. I am speaking the truth to you. So in this sermon is speaking from spiritual experience, right? And who knows obviously that what is unveiled to them of these realities. Ukallimukum an lisani as-sadiq. I am speaking to you from the tongue of as-sadiq, the tongue of the Prophet ﷺ, because this is what his teachings are about, right? When the Prophet spoke, he spoke about death, he spoke about how the angels would come, he spoke about how a person would pass away, how his soul would be taken into the barzakh, and every heavens that he goes by, the angels would ask, who is this pure soul that has passed away? Because there would be a fragrant scent coming from that soul, and thousands of angels accompany the soul into the heavens. And if even Prophet spoke about how his soul would leave his body like taking a hair out of flour. The soul leaves the body easily, it is pleased. And one of the good things, or one of the reasons of having a good death from just a physical perspective, is when the soul is being taken, the soul is completely integrated with the body when a person is alive. And the separation of the soul from the body is a very, very difficult process, right? A bad death means someone doesn't want to give up their soul. We're saying give up your soul, give up your soul to the devil, or give up your soul to the angels, right? And the description the Prophet ﷺ gave of a bad death is that of a silken cloth being torn over a thorn bush. Imagine that soul being ripped out of the body. Why is this person, when he realizes and the veils are lifted for him and he sees, oh, I'm not prepared, I did something wrong. He doesn't want to give up his soul because he still wants to hang on to the dunya. He thinks, okay, but now I need to do good, I need to do this. He holds his soul back. And there's almost like a wrestle that he wants to have with the angel of death, and the angel of death then rip his soul out, right? But the believer, when he gets his glad tidings, he is happy too. He leaves it, and so the angel takes it out extremely easily. A bad death doesn't necessarily, a good death doesn't necessarily mean that a person doesn't suffer some sort of difficulty at the time of death, right? Sometimes you find pious people as well, but at the time of death, you can see they go through much difficulty. And there were some Sahaba also at the time of death had, like Habib Umar explains this, he says sometimes this could be an expiation for sins. Meaning that if there was anything left on their records or anything in terms of things that need to be cleared, then that's the last part of difficulty that they face in life, and everything afterwards is taken. Other people take on at the time of death, right? They want to take as many sins of the ummah with them, so that their death even becomes a source of shafa'ah, in the forms of intercession for their students or their people, so they might go through some difficulty because they are concerned. If a person who has reached Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, their concern now is their dear ones in the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Imam al-Ghazali also in his Ihsaan, he speaks about the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? And how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also at the time of his death, what he carried of the sins of his ummah and of the states of his ummah. And it's, obviously everyone should at least once in their lifetime read the Ihsaan from cover to cover. That should be a goal. In order to do that means you need to already start reading at least one page a day. Ihsaan is four volumes. It's very, very long. We're not going to find one day to sit and read all those 4 volumes. Meaning, if we're not reading it from now every day, little bit by little, meaning we're not going to be able to do it. Habib al-Shatri used to say that being able to read the books of the awliya and the books that deal with the spiritual purification, right? In order one to be able to even just read those books, one requires tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he says that tawfiq is extremely rare. How many people haven't heard about Imam Ghazali in his Ihsaan, right? But how many people have actually read the book? So it's like this is a form of spiritual provision from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This one works day and night, but he doesn't earn much. And another person makes a little bit of effort and they earn a lot. Who gave that one the ability and this one the inabilities? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Likewise when it comes to knowledge. And therefore a person needs to constantly be asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for tawfiq to enable to read books which will lead them to the purification of the heart. Al-Masir amamakum. How are you saying this destination and this path now is in front of you? أَمَا تَعْشَقُونَ هَذِهِ الْبَشَائِرِ. Are you not now yearning for these glad tidings? Do you not yearn to have those who will be received in the barzakh in this way by the Prophet ﷺ, by all the great masters? وَهَذِهِ الْمُرَافَقَةَ الْكَرِيمَةَ. Are you not yearning for this great and honorable companion of the Prophet ﷺ? فَلَئِنْ ضَاءَ عَلَيَّ رُؤْيَةَ وَجْهِهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ عِنْدَ مَمَاتِي فَإِلَى أَيْنَ أَذْهَبُ. If I lose this opportunity and I am not of those who are able to gaze at the countenance of the Prophet ﷺ at the time of my death, then where am I to go? What is the benefit of my life? Right? وَمَا هُوَ الْحَالُ لِي. What will happen to me? What will be my state if at the time of my death the Prophet ﷺ is not the one that comes to receive me? وَمَا أَفَانِي مَا أُوتِيتُ وَمَا أُعْطِيتُ فِي هَذَا الْعَالَمِ كُلِّهِ وَلَوْ مَلَكْتُ الدُّنْيَا مِنْ أَقْصَاهَا إِلَى أَقْصَاهَا. And it would not have benefited me even if I was given this entire world and whatever it contained, and even if I owned everything in this dunya from the east to the west, from the one end to, meaning even if I was the most wealthy person, most well-off person in the world, I had all the pleasures of life. But if the time of death, this is not my ending, then what is the benefit of all of it? Ya Ahl al-Uqul, O people of intellect. Ya Ahl al-Fuhum, O people of understanding. Ya Ahl al-Idraki lil-Haqiqa, O those who understand and are perceptive to these inner realities. Ya Ahl al-Tasdiq al-Khaliq, O those who are wanting to be truthful or who are truthful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fima anzalahu alayna wa ballaghahu ilayna khayrul khalaiq. Right? O those who are truthful to that which was revealed to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. تشكك الناس في هذا الخبر. People in the world, they are doubtful with regards to these affairs that I'm speaking about. When we speak about these type of things, some people obviously disbelieve, don't even believe in it. And some Muslims as well, they don't even know about these realities. If you have to speak to them about these things, they're like, where did you get that information from? This is not mentioned in the Quran. You know, if some people, everything is only mentioned in the Quran. And if it's not in the Quran, then they don't take it. But the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is Sharia. It has sanction just like the Quran has sanction. The authentic narrations of the Prophet ﷺ has sanction in our Sharia as the injunctions of the Quran. تشكك الناس في هذا الخبر فآثروا الفاني. People are doubtful with regards to these affairs, and so what is the result? They have preferred this perishable world over the hereafter. تشككوا فيه فوقعوا في شبكة الفتن لعدوهم. They have been doubtful or they have been ignorant about these affairs, and so they have fallen into the net of the fitna, the trials and tribulations of their enemies. قلوبنا عليهم تبكي. Our hearts cry over them. Our hearts cry over them because of what we know that they will be losing out on. وأكفنا ترتفع. And our palms are raised on account of them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save them. ومعنا وعد من الله أن يظهر في الأمة دخولا في ميادين القرب أفواجا. And we have a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He will manifest in the ummah such a time in which throngs of people will now be entered into the arena of proximity to Him. And obviously this was great tidings given by the Prophet ﷺ as well, that this time would come where the entire ummah would now come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَتَقْوِيمٌ لِمَعْوَجٍ. And that which was crooked will become straightened. وَتَعْدِيلًا لِمَا مَالٍ. And that which was wavering will now become upright in terms of the states of the ummah and the states of the people of the ummah. وَتَحْوِيلًا لِلْأَحْوَالِ إِلَى أَحْسَنِهَا. And the transformation of the conditions of people in the ummah to that which will be best and better. وَنَحْنُ عَلَى يَقِينٍ بِمَا وَعَدٍ. And we are certain that what was promised will come true. لكننا نحب للواحد منكم أن يسبق. We have certainty that this time is going to come on the ummah, right? But what do we desire? What do we love? We نحب للواحد منكم أن يسبق. We want one of you to be at the foremost of those who are going to be the cause of this rectification of the ummah. أن يصدق فيعتلي ويرتقي. Right? We want him to supersede, to be at the foremost, that he is truthful in carrying this trust so that he may then be elevated and he may then be raised. And this is the way spiritual elevation takes place in the ummah, especially in today's times. A person does not get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in today's day and age with anything more beloved to Allah the Prophet ﷺ than da'wah. Means taking people from negligence and bringing them back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or taking people from kufr and bringing them to Islam. Habib Umar mentions many times that the action which will bring a person in closest proximity to the Prophet to this day and age is to have that concern for da'wah, being concerned for the ummah. And da'wah has many manifestations, not just, right, da'wah with your family, with your wife, with your children, in your business, right, the way you go about your day-to-day dealings with your neighbors. These are all forms of da'wah, right? And then obviously the big da'wah, bringing people back to those who are sinners, to bring them to repent. Those who are repentive and at a lower level of just worrying about the basics, you bring them up to the level of being concerned about the superiority acts. So the stages of da'wah, they would say, is first ta'lif, right? Or ta'lif meaning what? Ta'lif means ulfa, means to make someone amicable. You make someone amicable to the deen and you make the deen amicable to them. You make them beloved to Allah and you make Allah beloved to them. So they desire to want to approach. This is ta'lif. Acquaint people with what their duties and responsibilities are. And there's ta'arif. Ta'arif is now you teach them what they are required to do once they come once they have approached. This is called ta'rif, making them know the duties and the responsibilities. And then the final phase is taklif. Taklif now is you give them the responsibility to now do the same and bring the other. Person, one of the students, he accepted Islam. He was studying in Jordan for 15 years. Not Jordan, he was in Jeddah, he was teaching English, and he was non-Muslim. He was teaching English for 15 years. And then he ended up accepting Islam and he came to Tarim and he studied for another 10 years. And he had an acquaintance that I had the same acquaintance as he had. He would always speak about this particular friend of his. And he would always be praising, he's such a great guy, and he invites me over, and he brings me gifts and Eid. And obviously, as he wasn't, in the time that he was a non-Muslim. After 10 years, he comes to me and says, Ihsaan, I was thinking about that Sayyid. His entire life, it was just dawah. I thought he was being nice to me. Obviously he was being nice to me, but it was all just dawah. It was all just dawah, And obviously he was appreciative of that as well. But obviously now, after having accepted Islam and having learned about the techniques of dawah and how to deal with people, he understood that, all of that. And 15 years, imagine, 15 years that he was working on him, inviting him home, being nice to him, treating him amicably, right? Until the time came that he was ready. He was appreciative of the fact that he understood his situation. It wasn't this in-your-face dawah. And sometimes just being kind to people is in and of itself da'wah. When people see the akhlaq of the Prophet ﷺ in you, that is the greatest form of da'wah. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us tawfiq wa akhir da'wan alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk wa min ash-shaytanir rajim bismillahir rahmanir rahim wal 'asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat